You hear it before you see it. The ground shivers, dust drifts from the ceiling, and every instinct screams at your players to run. But they're too late. Suddenly, the world explodes. A monstrous scaled behemoth bursts from the earth, a cavernous mouth lined with teeth the size of swords. A worm, but not a worm. A purple worm. A living, breathing catastrophe, so big it could swallow an elephant whole. And here's the thing, it's not coming for treasure. It's not seeking vengeance. It doesn't even know the players exist. It's just hungry. And in its path, everything dies. Today on Monster Mechanics, we're not just playing a purple worm, we're unleashing it. We're taking this iconic, underestimated monstrosity and showing you how to turn it from a big pile of hit points into a world-ending force your players will never forget. Purple worms are ancient, older than empires, deeper than dungeons, and hungrier than any dragon. They're pure instinct made flesh. Huge, blind, unstoppable. Imagine a creature the size of a castle turret, covered in armor-thick scales, moving through solid rock as easily as your eye wade through water. That's a purple worm. They don't think in terms of prey or enemies. They don't really even make plans. They just dig, eat, and move on. But that doesn't mean that they're mindless. There's a terrible logic to how they move. Following seismic vibrations, tunneling through the richest veins of earth and stone, devouring whatever living creatures get caught in their wake. In some settings, purple worms aren't just beasts, they're forces of nature. Underground cities pray to them in fear, offering sacrifices to keep their lairs safe. Miners tell hushed stories of the mouths of the deep, where entire tunnels vanished overnight. Wizards have tried, and failed, to control them. Even dragons give them wide berth. What makes them terrifying isn't malice, it's inevitability. You can't reason with a cave-in, you can't outwit an earthquake, and you can't bargain with a purple worm. Alright, let's go ahead and open up the monster manual and take a look at what makes the purple worm such a terrifying mechanical force. To start things off, we have an armor class of 18, which is solid. Not invincible, but high enough that low-level PCs will struggle to land hits. But that's just the start. We're also dealing with 247 hit points. Yeah, 247. This thing is not going to go down fast. Even a fully optimized high-level party has to focus fire to bring it down before it swallows them whole. And while they're doing that, it's doing this. It has a speed of 50 feet. This worm doesn't lumber, it moves. It can slither across open terrain faster than most PCs, and underground, it's even more dangerous, because it can vanish below the surface, reposition, and burst it from behind. And the players, they'll be trapped, scattered, panicking. That's when the real damage starts. Alright, now let's get to the heart of what makes this beast awesome. Its attacks. These aren't just some numbers on a page, they're going to be the mechanics of terror in your campaign. The purple worm doesn't just flail around and hope for the best. It's got a method, and that method is bite, sting, and repeat. Let's go ahead and start with the multi-attack though. This worm doesn't just get one hit per round, it gets two. It gets one bite and one tail stinger. That's the moment where your players realize this thing isn't just a dumb brute, it's going to be a weapon of mass destruction. The bite is vicious. It's a plus 14 to hit, and that's high enough to tag even the best armored tanks. It's got a reach of 10 feet, so the worm doesn't need to get up close to chomp down. And on a hit, it's going to deal an average of 22 piercing damage, which is going to be a 3d8 plus 9. But here's the real kicker. If the target is large or smaller, which is almost every PC, they don't just take damage, they become grappled, with an escape DC of 19. That's not easy. And while grappled, they're also restrained, which means they're stuck. Their attacks are at disadvantage, and the worm can move them around like a chew toy. It's not just damage, it's total control. Now think about this. The worm can use its movement to dive underground while a restrained character is still in its jaws. Suddenly, the battlefield isn't just dangerous, it's disappearing from under your player's feet. Then there's the Tail Stinger, which is also going to be a plus 14 to hit. It has a 10-foot reach, but this time it's going to be 2d6 plus 9 piercing damage, plus a staggering 35 poison damage on average, resulting from a 10d6. It's not a con save gamble, it's raw damage right out of the gate. If your party's healer is squishy, or your caster gets hit by this, they're looking at up to 50 damage in a single sting. And with a plus 14 to hit, it's gonna land way more often than not. And what makes this so dangerous is the order of attacks that we went over earlier. The worm can grapple someone with its bite, immobilizing them, and then in the same turn hit another PC with its tail stinger, pouring on the damage. The party is suddenly split. One member is trapped and restrained, and another is poisoned and bleeding, and the battlefield is going to turn into complete chaos after that. The multi-attack isn't just about the high damage though, it's about disrupting the party's rhythm. It's about forcing split-second decisions. Do you help out the restrained rogue, or do you heal the bard who just took a poison spike to the chest? Do you spread out to avoid the stinger, or stay together and risk a bigger bite? It's a tactical nightmare. And don't forget, this thing is gargantuan. It controls the space around it. The reach of these attacks makes the battlefield itself feel that much smaller. Players aren't just fighting a monster, they're fighting the very ground that they're standing on. I know we briefly just touched on some of the attacks the Purple Worm has, but I want to talk about tactics of these attacks. Because you don't run a Purple Worm like a big dumb sack of purple HP. You run it like a living natural disaster. So starting off with Swallow, it's not really a mechanic, it's going to be an entire moment. That sudden, oh crap, realization when a player drops to 0 and you say, you feel yourself falling into something's mouth. And inside the worm, they're not just restrained, they're going to be panicking, drowning in acid, they'll take the 66 acid damage every turn, and they'll have to cut their way out or wait for someone to kill the worm. And if the party doesn't act fast, they'll be dissolved and into nothing. And then we have the Tail Stinger, and it's not just a throwaway ability, it's a precision strike, aimed at softening up the party's strongest characters. The poison damage isn't just big, it's honestly huge. Use the Stinger to drop the healer or the barbarian, and to split the party. You want to make them feel vulnerable. And also the worm's burrow speed, you really don't want to forget it. It's going to be its secret weapon. Don't just let it sit in one place. You want to burst up, attack, and then burrow down to reposition. It's not just a stand and fight kind of monster. It's a shark in the earth, circling its prey every turn. And on the topic of terrain, let's go ahead and go over some tactics that you can use as a dungeon master for a Purple Worm. This is where all the magic happens. You don't want to drop a Purple Worm into a flat battlefield and expect it to shine at its true potential. You need terrain. Put it in a crumbling cavern where every move could send rocks falling. Place it under a city where it can emerge and cause walls to collapse, forcing the players to deal with its structural instability while also fighting for their lives. Or run it in a twisting, narrow tunnel system. That actually sounds terrifying now that I'm saying it. Where its bulk pins the players into tight spaces and they can't flank it. Start the fight with an ambush. The worm shouldn't just show up. It should explode from the earth, scattering the party, knocking them all prone, and swallowing whoever's unlucky enough to be near the blast zone. Keep it moving. Burrow, attack, retreat. Again and again and again. Let it appear beneath the casters, sting, and then vanish back underground. Make the players afraid of every tremor they feel. And if they're handling it too easily, hint at a second worm lurking nearby. Or have them realize it wasn't really the fight. It was the warm-up for something much worse. And as always, I have a couple of encounter ideas for y'all to consider. Starting off with a mining town built over unstable tunnels. The worm can burst up in the middle of a festival, scattering the civilians, crushing buildings, and forcing the players to fight while also rescuing townsfolk. Or you could do something like a dwarven stronghold that's under siege. Half the party's fighting Duragar when suddenly the purple worm smashes through the wall, creating a three-sided battle. Or even an ancient underground temple where the worm is attracted by the player's magic. The temple's ceilings crack and fall, flooded chambers become death traps, and the worm bursts up from the floor right under the cleric's feet. As for how this would look during an actual battle, we can look at like a vast underground chamber, slick with bioluminescent fungus, jagged stalagmites rising from the floor. The party's mid-fight with an enemy warband, and suddenly the ground shakes. The worm erupts in the middle of the fray. In round 1, the worm is going to bite the warband leader, swallowing them whole, and tail stings the party's paladin. The poison damage nearly drops them outright. And then round 2, it's going to burrow, creating a sinkhole that collapses part of the battlefield. The wizard and the rogue are going to be split up through this from the rest of their group. And then round 3, the worm is going to burst up under the wizard, bite them, and dive back down. Then panic is going to set in. This isn't just combat, it's a survival horror, and it's going to be unforgettable for both you and your players. So for a bit of a too long didn't read, here's how you can play a purple worm right. Remember, it's not just a monster, it's a disaster. Use terrain, unstable, tight, and dramatic. You want to burrow, attack, and retreat, never standing still. You want to ensure that you're using Swallow and Tail Sting to disrupt and terrify your party. And lastly, make every moment a choice between survival and heroism. If you liked this dive into the Purple Worm and want more monster tactics, hit that like button, subscribe to Monster Mechanics, and comment below with the next creature you'd like for us to break down. And until next time, run smarter, fight dirtier, and keep your players on their toes.